few weeks ago. So if the police wants to have any interaction with me in Trinidad and Tobago, they could have done that and they could do that. And they're welcome to do that anytime. I would like to know, and I trust that the rest of the population would want to know, what would have been the circumstances and what is the guiding factor that would have caused the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago to get my name into the international community as a person who has issues with criminality in Trinidad and Tobago and is of such a nature that you require the involvement and assistance of Interpol. That officer who holds that desk of Interpol contact, if a matter comes up there of this nature, I would like to believe that no such action would be taken against any person without the senior superior officer being involved with appropriate oversight. And that senior superior officer, the Commissioner of Police, I would like to believe if the Commissioner of Police is in the loop, as he must be or ought to be, where a former Prime Minister of this country is to be put in the hands of Interpol and his name be put in the international circles for law enforcement to take note and appropriate action if so required, that the National Security Council of this country will be appropriately involved. And it's on that basis that I'm putting this squarely in the lap of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago and the Attorney General, who, it is my view, this development is the kind of development I would expect from the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, an individual that I will get back to in the not too distant future. But for the moment, I just say to you that this is what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say this to the wider national community, many of whom have taken sides one way or the other. I remember in 1939, there was something called the League of Nations, which was the precursor entity before the United Nations. And Emperor Haile Selassie had his country invaded by Italy. He appealed to the League of Nations for help and protection. They turned their back on him, and in so doing, destroyed whatever potential the League of Nations would have had to foster international peace. And in that moment of despair, Emperor Haile Selassie said these words. He said, "Today for me, tomorrow for you." And we didn't have to wait long. We didn't have to wait long for World War II to follow the outcomes of World War I. And I want to say to all the people of Trinidad and Tobago that what I experienced last week, today is my day, your day will come. If these people are allowed to stamp and label Trinidad and Tobago in this way. Because you see, it is not only personal, it is national. Because whatever you may want to say, however you may want to view me, the one thing you could never erase from the history and the future of this country is that I was the Prime Minister of this country and I am the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And when I held that office and all the other offices, I always did so with a caveat that I don't do it for myself. I do it for the greater good of the nation, to uplift the nation, And the fact that I, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, 3 months after I left office, this is the country where a Prime Minister could leave office and 3 months after, he's the subject of Interpol activity. Doesn't say much for Trinidad and Tobago. And it doesn't say much for me either. Except that I would like to know what exactly did I do in my life as a public officer and now as a private citizen to cause the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago to put me in that situation. And if they could do that to me, they could do it to others. You would have seen the Attorney General having a shocking presentation in Parliament a few weeks ago. As Attorney General, the country's chief law enforcement officer, who should be protecting the rights of all citizens, doesn't matter which side of the floor he's in Parliament, getting up in the Parliament and pointing at members of Parliament and saying, I'm coming for you, and for you. And I watched that and was appalled. And I saw no objection to that from quarters in this country. Apparently, we are normalizing that kind of behavior in this country. And I experienced it last week. So today, I am calling on the Prime Minister, head of the National Security Council, and the Commissioner of Police, the officer with the responsibility for the Bureau of Interpol in Trinidad and Tobago, to tell not me, tell the country what crime I am being investigated for and why it is that the police in Trinidad and Tobago could not carry out their duties here and had to resort to Interpol. Because one thing I should tell you, Interpol is not an investigating agency. Interpol is an agency that comes in where criminal matters have been determined and persons are, in most instances, attempting to flee justice. I call this development nothing more than a dastardly defamation, fabricated, constructed, and executed by the government agencies of Trinidad and Tobago, led by a government which seems to be more interested in retribution, hate, spite, divisiveness. And only such a government will put this stain on Trinidad and Tobago. Only such a government will put this stain on Trinidad and Tobago. It means that if they come out now and lie that they don't know about this and they didn't do this, then this remains on Interpol's list. Because who put it there is who has to take it off.